Well, good evening. Go ahead and get started tonight. I'd like to call the Tuesday, December 20th, 2016 Gardner Planning Commission meeting to order. Everyone would please rise and state the Pledge of Allegiance with me.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll start with roll call on my right then.
Freeman here.
Austin here.
Limer here.
Mater here. Roberts here.
Brady here.
Quorum is present. Moving into the consent agenda. All matters listed within the consent agenda have been distributed to each member of the Planning Commission for study. These items are considered to be routine and will be enacted upon by one motion with no separate discussion. If separate discussion is desired on an item from either the Planning Commission or from the floor, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. Is there any item any member of the Commission would like to have removed from the consent agenda? Any item any member of the public would like to have removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Limer with a second by Brady that we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries with all in favor. Moving on to the regular agenda, item number 1, rezoning. Z-16-02. Consider and hold a public hearing on a proposed rezoning from R-2 two-family residential district to C-2 general business district for property located at 517 East Shawnee Street and 116 North White Drive. Application made by Robert M. and Joyce L. O'Connor, applicants for 517 Shawnee LLC and 116 White LLC, property owners of record. Do we have a presentation from staff this evening?
Yes, we do.
Great.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Chad Barr, Planner 1, to present this evening's case. Now, the particular case here was actually requested to be withdrawn from the agenda. That was done last Wednesday. That would be December the 14th. So it's been officially withdrawn per staff as far as what was the request by the applicant, the original applicant. But I will go through the case as I've presented, like I was going to present tonight, because that leads to a particular recommendation by staff, if I can do that. This first slide here is an aerial map for Z-16-02 with the subject properties highlighted in the center with the blue, and then the 200 feet notification boundary is seen in the red. There actually is some floodplain, designated 100-year floodplain, that goes through the drainage channel that separates the two subject properties. It runs in a north-south fashion. The two properties consist of .643 acres, and they're currently zoned R2, which is the two-family type residential zoning district in the city. And the request is to go to the C2, which is the general commercial business district for the city. Land uses in the vicinity. To the north, there's a mixture of single-family residences and duplexes. To the east, there's a triplex, a duplex, and also single-family residential development. To south is an area of commercial development and Main Street as it courses through town. And to the west is single-family residential and duplex as well. Now, the R2 zoning districts, as I just stated, allows for duplexes, the twin or the two-family residential type dwelling. The C2 allows various uses. I'll list them here. It's kind of long, but it's from the Land Development Code, the LDC for the city. And I won't go into the specifics on each kind of term, if you will, but it kind of gives the flavor of the C2 zoning district. And it allows, as such, small assembly, large assembly land uses, cultural and public service, neighborhood school, community school, regional school, cemetery/mausoleum, open/civic space, limited residential care, general residential care, and institutional residential care. Micro, meaning under 1,000 square feet for a retail use. Neighborhood retail, which is 1,000 to 3,000 square feet. Small retail, 3,000 to 6,000 square feet. General retail, 6,000 to 20,000 square feet. And large retail, 20,000 to 100,000 square feet. Moving on here, it says also it allows market grocery, which is under 10,000 square feet. The store grocery, 10,000 to 45,000 square feet. Supermarket grocery, in excess of 45,000 square feet. It also allows outdoor sales of a limited realm, general outdoor sales, and it also has a limited convenience store / fuel station that ranges from 1 to 4 pumps. General convenience store fuel station that ranges from 5 to 12 pumps. Animal care of a general nature. Daycare center. General food and beverage, and then also heavy food and beverage. Small health care, general health care, and large health care. An inn of lodging, meaning under 20 rooms. Small lodging under 100 rooms, and also large lodging of 100 rooms plus. Limited office space, general office space, and large to complex office space. Pawn shops, short-term loan and check cashing land uses. Limited personal services, general personal services, and heavy / business personal services. Indoor minor, meaning less than 10,000 square feet for recreational entertainment. Indoor major, meaning more than 10,000 square feet for recreational / entertainment. And then minor outdoor for recreational / entertainment. And then also recreation in the form of an RV park / campground. And then limited vehicle equipment service and repair. And lastly, limited or / artisan manufacturing. The comprehensive plan of the city calls for low-density residential development on the 2 parcels. That's on page 53 on the future land use map. But there is also wording on page 66 that calls for possible commercial expansion throughout the town, basically from Main Street up to Shawnee. We saw that was brought into play with the CVS rezoning that was done last year on the west side of Center Street. So moving on now, there's a series of field photos, which I'm glad I took them when I did, because it's easier to see than when they're covered with snow. So there's several of these to try to get a feel for the neighborhood. This one's looking southeast at the south side of Shawnee Street. You can see the 2 subject properties there with the arrows pointing to them. This is looking south across East Shawnee Street at 116 North White Drive. This is looking south-southwest, also at 116 North White Drive. This is looking south down White Drive. Subject property isn't in view here. It would be off to your right as far as if you're looking south down White Drive. You can see Main Street in the background there. This is looking northwest at the back of 526 Main, and also you see the subject properties there. This is looking north at the drainage way between the 2 subject properties. This is the designated floodplain. This is looking southwest at the commercial properties currently in existence. This is looking north at White Drive. Subject property is on the left. And this is looking east-northeast at East Shawnee Street. Subject properties, one of them would be basically behind where the person taking the picture's at. This is looking northwest at 124 North White Drive. It's one of the properties that was notified of the hearing. And this is looking west at East Shawnee Street, with both properties, subject properties, being on the left there. The arrow's pointing to them. So what we got originally with the rezoning request is we got basically a concept as far as the site plan development of what's intended to be developed on 518 East Main Street, 517 East Shawnee, and 116 North White Drive. And that early looking on at that looked like it could meet the zoning regulations, generally speaking, and therefore the C2 zoning request would suffice. The applicant came back with kind of a later concept that was quite a bit different from the first, and as such, staff believed that the C2 zoning could not work for what they had in mind as far as a site plan development. So with discourse with the property owner, the applicant, they've withdrawn, and what we've done here is we've come up with an idea to have a possible commission initiative, if the planning commission would see as such, of instead of doing the 2 north properties from R2 to C2, would be to include 4 properties, the 2 subject properties and the 2 south of it, which consist of 518 East Main Street, which is currently a car wash, and then 526 East Main Street, which is currently a commercial realty type office. And then the request here would be with a possible commission initiative to go to CP-2, which is the planned commercial district for the city. So having said all that, that gets the staff's recommendation on Z-16-02. Staff recommends the Planning Commission initiate a rezoning for properties located at 517 East Shawnee Street, 116 North White Drive, 518 East Main Street, and 526 East Main Street from R2 and C2 districts to the CP-2 district, and that would be brought back before the Planning Commission at a later date, possibly as soon as January. That would conclude the presentation unless you have any questions.
Can you go back to that slide with that 4 sections on it, 5, 16, 17?
This one here?
Yes, 18. So the O'Connors, they own all that property?
Commissioner Brader, yes, they do.
Okay.
They have it in forms of different, like LLCs. They've tended to name the ownership with the name of the address. It's like 517 East Shawnee LLC. That's kind of how they've named it, but they do actually own each of the 4 properties.
And are there people living in 16 and 17 right now?
Yes. There's it's occupied at 116 North White Drive and also 517 East Shawnee.
So commercial property would eventually be put there, assuming all this goes through. So 116 doesn't bother me a whole lot. There's a road right there on White Drive, but that would butt up. Some of that commercial property would be right by 511, another home, correct?
That's correct. The land use at 511 East Shawnee actually is a duplex. Yeah, that's the major. I think that's one of the major questions for the Planning Commission to consider is you know how far to extend north the commercial zoning. It's a big question, I think, for the community as a whole.
I think my question is, why should we as the Planning Commission initiate anything if the owners have withdrawn their request and never went down this planned district approach? I mean, it's hard for us to know if this is good or not without having any idea of what they have planned for the property. And I just don't understand why we would want to initiate anything as a commission.
And there's something we would not have initiated, not unless the O'Connors had said something originally.
I'm going to jump in and try to address that. I've been working with the proposed developer. Early on, we've been working with them for probably 6 months or so. Different configurations have come back and forth. Initially, they were looking at something different, and that is why we steered them in the direction of the C2. The property owners, which are the O'Connors, as part of not only their property, which they had potentially wanted to expand to the north in the future, and part of the sale of the property, they were going to go through and request the zoning to C2. They moved forward with that, and the future buyer and developer has changed their concept that they have coming through. And what they are looking at doing is tweaking that floodplain area, that drainage area, actually putting it in a box culvert, putting in some parking over the top, what they're looking at doing isn't something that they could do in a standard C2 district. So after this conversation and based on that, we've been working with them for months and steered them in the direction of the C2. That's the way that we went. We thought it was appropriate in order to facilitate this redevelopment to have them withdraw it and ask that the Planning Commission just initiate this process. It's going to have to go through the same process that a typical rezoning. So just because you initiate it doesn't mean that you agree with it. It means that you have given it the okay to go through the process without them basically paying the fee. They paid the fee for the rezoning. They initiated the rezoning. We have said, based on this concept that's coming forward, that's not going to work. Let's change gears and get you in the direction that you need to be going and get that process moving through the public process again. So it's kind of one of those things that we're trying to fix some moving pieces, and in order for them to move forward and not have to reinitiate the process that they already started and such, it's helping to facilitate that redevelopment. It's not something we would typically ask you guys to do, but this is kind of a different situation. But yes, it would come back to you. We would do new public notice. It would come back to you, and you would consider it with a full staff report, and at that point you would decide as a commission whether you wanted to recommend that move forward or not. And it's likely that you will see that site plan or plat come through at the same time.
So
You'll have more guts to go with it.
yeah. So just make sure I understand, basically the purpose of us initiating anything is to make it such that the applicant doesn't have to pay the fees again to reinitiate a new change, since they didn't go through it all the way the first time, since we figured out the C2 wouldn't work before it got to us.
Right. That's a big chunk of it, and you know, we led them in one direction, and you know, with the moving pieces, we think it would, you know, it could be appropriate for the Planning Commission to initiate this process. The way state statute reads is that you can, if they had changed their mind and wanted to go to a lesser zoning district, a less intense zoning district, so you figure that Ag is at the bottom and your M2 is at the top, and if you request M1 and the Planning Commission hears it and says, well, we don't think M1 is really appropriate in that district or in that area, but we think C3 could be appropriate, that's something you could do during the meeting. It's a lesser change table kind of thing. The idea is that what they requested and what you're recommending would have a lesser impact potentially on the property. With this being a CP2 or CP2, it doesn't quite fit in with where we could tweak it in the state statute, so we have to initiate it and start over again. So there wasn't a way for us to tweak it and keep it moving forward the way they had it, and it wasn't gonna work. And this is how we can still make it keep rolling, saying that, yeah, we kind of steered you a little bit in the wrong direction. This is how we can keep it going, and the Planning Commission and governing body can go through their process appropriately.
But if we initiate this action, my fear is we're giving them a false impression that we're basically endorsing something we've not even seen.
No.
Well, I know, but we don't, they could think that.
Well, then that would be on their shoulders, if they think that, because it still has to go through the processes, and there's several opportunities for it to get voted the
I
other
can just
way.
see people coming back and saying, hey, you all initiated this, and now, let's say we decide to vote against this down the road, this thing, we don't even know what it is.
But you also have
It's
the devil's advocate too.
The developer has given me permission to tell you they're looking at putting a Dairy Queen there.
I think the most important thing, is none of this is a surprise to the O'Connors. They're
No.
completely aware of what we're trying to do this evening.
Correct.
They understand this is the way to go, and we understand
Right.
beyond it.
And we've been talking with the O'Connors, and we've been talking with the architect for Dairy Queen, and they've been talking. So it's been us talking to both of them, and them talking between the two. So they're all we're all on the same page.
As planning commission, we need to do our due diligence and go through the process. We're still gonna hold the public hearing, we're still gonna talk about it. That's what the commission's here.
And it's not, in my experience, it's not uncommon for planning commission governing bodies to initiate rezonings in special situations. We wouldn't normally just ask you to request or to initiate rezoning, but we felt that this was appropriate.
But you've made it clear to them, there are no promises. This is not a...
They completely understand that.
So with that, considering it is a public hearing, we'll now open, no, we're not doing the public hearing?
Nope.
Okay, well then,
They have withdrawn that application,
okay,
so
well then I
you
needed to have that better in my agenda, Michelle, sorry.
No.
No problem. Okay,
It's
so
different.
this is just the simple consideration, okay, I need to get this straight then, for me even. Okay, so it's just simple discussion, consideration of the initiation. We will see again a re-notification for the public hearing, potentially in January
Probably
or...
February.
Okay. Okay, all right, so I guess, commissioners, this is still our discussion time. I didn't mean to cut you all short. Thanks for the reset on procedure. So, other questions for staff? Or, do we have a motion on this item?
I move that the planning commission initiate a rezoning for the properties located at 517 East Shawnee Street, 116 North White Drive, 518 East Main Street, and 526 East Main Street from R2 and C2 districts to the CP2 district to be brought back before the planning commission at a later date.
Second.
We have a motion made by Freeman with a second by Limer that the planning commission initiate a rezoning for properties located at 517 East Shawnee Street, 116 North White Drive, 518 East Main Street, and 526 East Main Street from R-2 and C-2 districts to the CP-2 district to be brought back before the planning commission at a later date. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with all in favor. Moving on, regular agenda number 2, Willow Chase 4, FP-16-05. Consider a proposed final plat for Willow Chase 4, a 3.41 acre residential development located southwest of the intersection of South Moonlight Road and White Drive. Request by Complete LLC, MTK-GAR Holdings, LLC, property owner of record. Do we have a presentation from staff this evening?
Madam Chair, yes, we do.
Great.
Chad Barr, Planner 1, again to present this particular agenda item. As you stated, it's final plat, case number FP-16-05. The name of the plat is the Willow Chase 4 subdivision. This is the final plat there on the screen. If you remember back when they did the preliminary plat for Willow Chase 4, it consisted of, I think it was like 32 lots and a couple of different tracts, 2 or 3 different tracts for different purposes. What they've chosen to do under this application is basically final plat the final plat the north 9 lots and 1 tract. So let me go through this slide to kind of decode the colors that are here for you. The parcel boundary is highlighted with the dark black line. The area to be dedicated for road right-of-way is indicated with the blue, kind of the robin egg blue. One is Hemlock Street, which is not built at all, so that would be a totally new street in town. Moonlight Road, of course, exists, and this would give it the full half section line right-of-way width of 60 feet. The kind of the salmon color is Tract A up there in the northeast corner of the subject property. That's been designated as a drainage easement. Basically, the drainage from this development will run to the north and slightly to the east, and so it will drain naturally in Tract A. And staff thought that was best to have that designated as an easement. The actual maintenance on the plat, the wording is that it would be the maintenance of the tract would be done by the landowner, not the city. The city just wanted the ability with where the runoff goes into that tract and then eventually goes out. I believe it's on the east side of that tract. If the city needed to get in there and do any type of repair or maintenance on that drainage type facility, that's why it's designated as a drainage easement. The green area is the landscape easement. That's a requirement from the former zoning ordinance, which we also do have in the land development code as well. So you see that with the green area, and that's at the backs of those lots 51 through 54 along the Moonlight Road right away. And that's because Moonlight Road is an arterial type of designation for a street. And then you'll see the purple area down in the southwest part of the application area. It's in the front of lot 59. It's 35 feet of depth, and that's what Public Works has come up with as a temporary turnaround easement that would be built in addition to Hemlock Street, and that would allow for the temporary turnaround of emergency vehicles and such until the area was platted further to the south. All in all, this plat consists of 3.41 acres. It has the current zoning, which the zoning was approved earlier with the R2 type zoning. The excise tax excludes the road right-of-way for arterial roads, so the remaining figure for the developable area is $24,711.41. That's at a rate of 20 cents per square foot, and that's payable after the final plat. If it's approved, would be payable after that, but before it would be released for signatures and recording. A 5 feet wide sidewalk is proposed per the land development code. Of course, it'll be served by public water and sewer. And then one new thing that we have because of the land development code, even though there was some wording in the former zoning regulation of a street plan or street trees, and so we see that in the next slide. And so you'll see two things here. You'll see the arterial trees, which are along Moonlight Road. That's would be located in the landscape easement that we saw on the last slide that was designated in green. And then, of course, now we see the street trees as designated on both sides of Hemlock. And then they've got the various, I put in the just the common name as opposed to their Latin or scientific name there. So, but they do meet the standards of the Land Development Code for diversity as well, given the number of trees that would be required to be planted on an each lot-by-lot basis. So that leads the staff's recommendation of FP-16-05 would recommend approval of the final plat of Willow Chase 4, a 3.41 acre, 9-lot, 1-tract duplex residential development located at the southwest corner of the intersection of South Moonlight Road and East White Drive in Gardner, Kansas, and forward the plat to the governing body for acceptance of easements and dedications subject to the following conditions, which there are three. Number one, the excise tax of $24,711.41 shall be paid to the City of Gardner prior to the recording of the final plat. Number two, the applicant/developer shall construct and maintain a 35 feet deep temporary turnaround at the front end of proposed lot 59 until further final platting is completed south of the subject final plat application area. And then number three, construction plans for utilities, infrastructure, and public facilities shall be submitted to the city for review and approval prior to the obtaining city signatures on the final plat. The city is in receipt of some of the plans for the utilities and stuff, but not all of them as of yet. And then going back to number two, since there was additional lots that was on the preliminary plat of Willow Chase 4 to the south, since that originally was approved in September, the applicant still would have until September 28th of next year to final plat the remaining lots, whether they do it in one more phase or two more phases, however they would do that. So that would conclude the presentation unless you'd have any questions.
Great. Any questions? Don't know if we have the applicant with us this evening for any additional information. It seems pretty straightforward, but don't want to deny the opportunity. Okay, if we don't have questions or comments from staff, or for staff, I'd entertain a motion on this item.
I move that we approve the request for final plat for Will Chase 4, FP-16-05. A request for a 3.41 acre, 9-lot, 1-tract duplex residential development located at the southwest corner of the intersection of South Moonlight Road and East White Drive, based on review of staff report dated 12/20/2016, and forward the plat to the governing body for acceptance of easements and dedications with the following conditions attached. Condition 1, the excise tax of $24,711.41 shall be paid to the city of Gardner prior to reporting of the final plat. Condition 2, the applicant developer shall construct and maintain a 35-foot deep temporary turnaround at the front end of the proposed lot 59 until further final platting is completed south of the project final plat application area. Number 3, construction plans for utilities, infrastructure, and public facilities shall be submitted to the city for review and approval prior to obtaining city signatures on the final plat.
Second.
We have a motion made by Austin with a second by Limer that we approve the request for a final plat for Willow Chase 4 FP-16-05. A request for a 3.41 acre, 9-lot, 1-tract duplex residential development located at the southwest corner of the intersection of South Moonlight Road and East White Drive, based on the review of staff report dated 12/20/2016, and forward the plat to the governing body for acceptance of easements and dedications with the following conditions attached. Item number 1, the excise tax of $24,711.41 shall be paid to the city of Gardner prior to the recording of the final plat. Item number 2, the applicant developer shall construct and maintain a 35-foot deep temporary turnaround at the front end of the proposed lot 59 until further platting is completed south of the subject final plat application area. Number 3, construction plans for utilities, infrastructure, and public facilities shall be submitted to the city for review and approval prior to obtaining city signatures on the final plat. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries with all in favor. Item number 3 on the regular agenda, Brittany Court, SP-16-04. Consider a site plan for an expansion of an existing apartment complex located at 151 West Brittany Court. Request by Yarco Devcor LLC, Brittany Court LTD, property owner of record. We have a presentation this evening.
Good evening, Michelle Leininger, Principal Planner. Going through briefly this site plan, the property owners have secured low-income housing tax credits, and that's what they are using to make improvements to the property. This is the subject property. It's just north of the intersection of Center and Main Street. It was built in the 80s. It's 45 units with a community room office area. Most of them are fourplex units. The community room office has a unit in with it. Just some staff findings. This site plan's consistent with the comprehensive plan, meets all the standards required by the Land Development Code, and no new public utilities are needed for the project. Just highlight what's going on with the project. This is the overall site plan with North Center Street to the right, north being up. Some of the improvements, they are putting in brand new trash enclosures. This is what they look like, or proposed to look like, made of brick with capstone and metal gates. This will look similar to the brick that's existing on the site already. There's some additional parking that they're having to add because of the expansion of the community room area. They're adding it, as you can see, to the right of the picture, close to the entrance of the property. They're adding 3 parallel parking spaces there. I also want to point out in this picture they're adding a new sign right in that corner, kind of below where it has the arrow. Thank you. Oh, yeah, right there. That the sign elevations and such were shown in the site plan. So I won't go over that. This is, I'm sorry, it's a little overlapped here. Apparently it didn't work. This is the office expansion, office clubhouse, or office community room expansion. They're basically doubling the size of that area. They're including a patio, concrete patio out in the front. They are required to include some buffer landscaping. The property to the south is R1 residential. And so they have included the required shrubbery and trees. Additionally, they're replacing and including an additional air conditioning unit to the east of the property. Didn't show up on this one, but they are providing the appropriate screening, landscaping screening for those too. Here is the elevation look for the clubhouse specifically. All the buildings will look similar in nature, with the asphalt shingles and the siding and the windows, and the existing brick is there, so they will maintain that.
Just trying to help.
No. So they'll be of all similar colors. One thing to note that we did ask them to kind of emphasis which door was to the office and community room area, being that this building also has a unit in it. If we're emphasizing and using this space more for gatherings and people coming to the office and such, we want to make sure that people know which door is the office and which one is the unit. And we go to the office, we don't go to the unit. They probably wouldn't appreciate that. There's also some minor work that will go on. They're adding a retaining wall to the northwesternmost, around the northwesternmost building. They're having some settling issues on site, so they're mud jacking some of the buildings to address that, and including a retaining wall. And they're also doing some other improvements to all the other structures that aren't included in the site plan, but are included as part of what they're doing with the money that they got from the tax project. So staff recommends approval of site plan SP 16-04 Brittany Court expansion located at 151 West Brittany Court.
Great. Thanks, Michelle. We have questions for staff tonight?
Well, sure.
You're not sure? You're sure?
Sure. On the trash container locations, are there existing trash containers located in those same spots? My concern being, has anybody verified the trash truck can actually access those?
I'm assuming the trash trucks can access them because they're existing.
Okay. Good.
They're just making vast improvements to those, making sure that they're screened and
Right.
looking nice. So.
Good. Oh, that's good.
I don't know if we have the applicant with us this evening. If there's anything the applicant would like to add, it seems pretty straightforward, but
Mike Rube, Director of Development, Yarko Company, 7920 Ward Parkway, Kansas City, Missouri. Nothing to add to what staff has put forward. Just here to answer questions if you have any.
great, thank you. Question, Brad? We don't have any other questions. We do have the applicant with us, and we have staff.
I think I had one more quick question.
Absolutely.
I forgot to look at this and verify it. Do we allow shingle siding?
They can be as an accent. So that's what they're providing for is it as an accent. The main materials are the wood siding and the brick. So the shingles are just in the peaks.
And it's still a wood or it's still a wood hardy board siding, it's just made to look like a Cape Cod kind of shake shingle.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited about this.
Yep, looks like nice upgrades. Ready for a motion?
Absolutely.
After review of application SP-1604, a site plan for 151 West Brittany Court, and site plan dated 12/8/16, and staff report dated 12/20/16, the Planning Commission approves the application after finding all applicable requirements have been met.
Second.
Great, we have a motion made by Brady with a second by Limer that the Planning Commission, after review of application SP-16-04, a site plan for 151 West Brittany Court and site plan dated December 8, 2016, and staff report dated December 20th, 2016, the Planning Commission approved the application after finding all applicable requirements have been met. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries with all in favor.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Excited about this. Okay, regular agenda item number 4, text amendments. Hold a public hearing on and consider text amendments to the Land Development Code for the following. Item A, TA-16-02, Section 17.03.020.E, final plat regarding review criteria. Item B is deferred. Item C, TA-16-11, Section 17.05.040, accessory uses regarding standards for accessory home occupation and in-home daycare uses. And item D, TA-16-12, Section 17.05.040, accessory uses regarding massage businesses as accessory home occupation. We have a presentation from staff this evening.
Yes, we do. Good evening, Commissioners. Kelly Drake Woodward, Chief Planner, to present these proposed text amendments to the Land Development Code. So our recommendation is to hold the public hearing and just everything you just said. We'll skip past this one. You can accept them as presented or as changed or not at all. So the first amendment that we're considering is 1602. And it has to do with the optimal time to require the approval of construction plans for public improvements during the platting process. Here are the possible choices. First, we could approve those construction plans before the preliminary plat approval by the Planning Commission. We could approve them before the final plat approval by the Planning Commission. Both options 1 and 2 would require the developer to pay for fully engineered and approved plans prior to plat approval, which is a sizable financial risk for them. If we don't do this, though, it's advisable that we make all plat approvals be contingent upon future construction plan approval. We have option 3, which is to approve the construction plans after the Planning Commission approves the final plat, but before the governing body accepts the dedications and easements. This would potentially create a time lag between when you approve the final plat and the governing body accepts those dedications, which could lead to some statutory process concerns, and the city kind of wants to keep these things moving along in a timely manner. So there are ways that we can go back and make changes to those plats if anything happens with the easements and dedications, or there's conditional approvals that can be made to take care of any of those concerns. The other option is to approve the construction plans after the governing body accepts those dedications and easements, but before we allow the plat to be signed and recorded. So this actually puts that process back in the hands of the developer or property owner to keep the process moving. And actually they'll have a 2-year time period after the plat is approved before recording, before it would become void. So this gives them sufficient time to gain those approvals, we believe. Option number 5 is to wait until after the plat is recorded and before they're constructed. And this is probably our least favorite option. It gives us less leverage and creates potential for further delays if there are problems with those plans. So our recommendation is number 4, approval of the construction plans after the governing body accepts those easements and dedications before the plat is recorded. We've looked at this language before at the last meeting, so I'm not going to go through that again. Shown here in 2 pieces, because it's kind of a long one. So the first part of it, and this is the second part of it. So do we have any questions on that one? Okay.
Makes sense. Okay.
The second one, there's 2 parts also to 1611. We deferred 1609 just because I need to do some more research. I need some more time on that one. But this is the first part of 1611. We were considering whether we needed to require a local permit for some of these accessory residential land uses, including accessory in-home daycare and accessory home occupations. The appropriate permit would cost $50. It's a use permit. And then we did some research among some other jurisdictions, and we found, at least for this one, accessory in-home daycare permitting and registration process is not usually required. And looking at these standards here that I've included on the slide, there's really nothing here that we couldn't observe either through outside observation or that isn't going to be taken care of through the Kansas licensing process. So the reason we propose no change for this particular land use is so that we avoid additional regulatory burdens. And I think you guys expressed some concern about this at the last meeting as well, so we were listening to you and in recommending no change for this one.
Okay.
The second part of this was for accessory home occupations. And this one's the same question, but it's a little bit different issue because there are several standards in the ordinance that we would not be able to tell from just viewing something, from the exterior of the structure. For instance, we would not know exactly how much floor area the home occupation takes to make sure it is an accessory use, not kind of encroaching on the residential use. We wouldn't really know the specific home occupation necessarily, and we do have some prohibited home occupations, so we'd like to know that ahead of time before they initiate it. And we also wouldn't know the projected number of clients or employee visits per day, and that would, versus the residents coming and going, and that's a standard that we have, and that if we had complaints, we would have to do research and observation to try to find out. But what we did look at some other jurisdictions. Olathe and Overland Park have home occupation standards similar, to what we have. They're very specific standards. They don't really have a specific permit process that we could determine. I'm not sure how they ensure these standards are met unless it's just by complaint and then they do their investigation. But the City of Lenexa has an annual business license for home occupation, so every year they pay $36. But only type B, and then the City of Lawrence requires their higher intensity home occupation, which is the type B, to register with the planning director. They don't charge for that. They do have the applicant sign an affidavit that pledges compliance with their standards. But the applicant also has to notify the registered neighbors and associations and nearby landowners that they're establishing the home occupation. It's not that they have to get permission, it's just, I think they're just notifying that it's happening. But that registration is valid for 2 years. Some of them are annual, some of them are for 2 years. We are recommending language to allow us to permit, these home occupations when they're initiated and get that affidavit of pledging continued compliance, but then not going back annually or every 2 years or something. Unless there's complaints, then we'd start looking into what's happening there. Are there, any questions on that part of it?
What are we trying to see in a plot plan or a site plan? Because if we're trying to determine that not more than 20% of the residence is being used, plot plans and site plans generally just show the outline of the building, correct?
Well, no, we would ask them to submit the appropriate things for us to determine this. They'd have to submit some kind of a layout showing us where in the home occupation is going to be taking place.
So should we specify that as a floor plan?
Well, we could do that. It could just be part of the application. They could just kind of sketch it out on the application as well.
So it doesn't have to be an architectural rendering, it can just be...
Right.
I just don't want our language to require a plot plan or site plan. They say, here you go, and it's the outline of the building, and it doesn't give us any benefit.
Yeah, do you guys have thoughts on that? I don't know if a site plan automatically always has the same requirements. I think we can have, usually all our applications have a checklist of the information that we require, and it could be customized for this one. Not to include stuff we don't need, like topography and, we don't want them to go to a lot of expense.
Kelly, I think a simple, if they just showed like their house and then what area they're gonna allocate or designate for that particular use, and then we can, if they provide dimensions, that would be great, and then that way we could do a fairly quick calculation and determine if it's too much or it's about right.
Do you think that wording, the way the wording is, would allow us to do what we intend, which is what you said? Because it says that will be approved upon by the Business and Economic Development Director or designee upon review of a plot plan or site plan in accordance with the following standards. And I just took that same language from one of our other uses, is kind of why I chose that.
Brian's question is whether or not, and correct me if I'm wrong, if those are so legally binding definitions to require documents, more so than them showing up with a Google map of their home and saying this is where it is. So if we use those terms, are they legal definitions that require something different than that?
Right. I would say no, but does anybody disagree?
I'm not sure I got...
You're not going to take literal a site plan. How do you want to say it?
We certainly won't. I mean, we understand it the same way Chad's explained it. But
right.
When you put it in code, does it read differently? Because there's a standard for the legal definition of a site plan or a plot plan.
Or a plot plan, right.
Yeah, but even our site plans, we have one that's administrative review, and we have one that's the full commission review, and those, I think, require different things, different levels of things to be submitted.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Would, it seems to me that the simple addition of floor plan to the other two terms would take care of the definitional aspect of it.
You just say plan.
Plot plan, site plan, or
floor plan.
Okay.
As needed.
As needed.
A plot plan or site plan or floor plan, and floor plan as needed, is that what you're saying?
To kind of leave it flexible so it's not the legal terminology.
Plot plan, site plan, or floor plan.
Okay.
Well, it's nitpick, but, I think we should leave out as needed. Is that, leaves the terminology up that maybe it's not always required for them to have one of those three for you to look at. So I would just put the three in accordance with the following standards.
That made me think of something that we already had in the code, what we previously called animal permits for chickens and things like that. It said, 'cause it's the same kind of thing, and it does say, upon review of a plot plan or site plan in accordance with the following standards. So it's kind of that same format that we already have.
Same format, but chickens are outside.
We hope they are.
But
Yeah,
if
no,
the
I-
goal is to review the inside of the house, you're not gonna get that.
Well, and it may be a culmination of things. You know, you may be adding a garage or something to have your home occupation, or you may be, you know,
Yeah, I think it's okay to customize it per use like that.
right. I'm just saying that's where it probably came from.
Sure.
Yeah, that,
Um,
that's where it came from.
Actually, a building plan might be more accurate, because a plot plan usually just shows the shell of the house and then maybe the garage, but you really don't see the interior walls. And then the site plan usually has to do with like plantings and sidewalks and with driveway and maybe rear yard easement or stuff like that. And
Really, in most of
Right,
these
and then-
cases, we don't wanna complicate. The general, it's just for review to make sure there's no striking differences. So I think the simplification of it with the three available, I think that accomplishes what we want.
Okay.
Still had a great point that we just didn't think about, or they didn't think about when they were looking at that before.
Mhm.
I think we're probably okay with the three options. I guess my last question is, do we need the plot plan and site plan options since home occupations are required to be 100% within the dwelling unit? In the new land development code, we can't have stuff outside.
Well, there are some home occupations that probably do have both outside and maybe an accessory building use.
I don't think that's permissible under the new land development
Right.
code.
I was just gonna look at the standards that are in your staff report, so we could, because that's all the standards we have.
Home occupation shall be entirely contained within the interior of a structure. So then it's the definition of what a structure, if they have an accessory building, that is a structure. So it would allow within that or existing.
For example, in some of our older parts of our communities, the garages are unattached, and they might have a wood shop in the back of their garage, for example, or something like that.
So I think item one accommodates that.
Yeah, any setbacks and landscaping and such would have been taken care of when that structure itself was permitted. So I can, see your point. I don't see any other standards there that maybe would require, a footprint of the building with the setbacks but we'll have to ask questions about the size of the structures. The expected traffic that's gonna be generated, the expected impacts that would be noticeable.
Might take into consideration too, we're also trying to do this as a process for the future, and there may be home occupations, and, for example, a landscape designer could be a home occupation, and they might do setup in their backyard to give examples of how to design or landscape something, and that could be part of a design work area.
Maybe we just could say approval of review and approval of plans or something.
I think the three terms that we used earlier are perfectly fine.
Other commissioners? Brad?
I would think, if we use all three, we can,
Okay.
it includes the floor plan. I don't think the other two are necessary, so that's all right.
Okay. Plot plan, site plan or floor plan. Making a note. Any other questions for staff on text amendment C? Okay, if not, we can move into text amendment D, and then we will go through the public hearing process.
I'm stuck. Chad, can you flip it?
What page do you need?
Just the next one. It says TA 1612 at the bottom. I don't know why it won't go.
Hit the pause button.
The pause button? Is that this?
Now try it.
This happens to me every time. I'm not sure why I'm so jinxed.
It was just up there. I saw it a minute ago.
Maybe it's frozen.
Here we go.
Yep.
You got it.
Okay.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
no problem.
Okay, so, this is 1612. This is the one we kind of discussed a little more extensively when we were initiating it. And it's about prohibiting massage establishments as home occupations. We do have extensive regulations in Title V of the Gardner Municipal Code on dealing with home occupations, licensing, or both the people who do it and the places where it's done. And the thought process was that we should just leave that in the municipal code and let that control and not let these, thinking that this is not practical in a home occupation setting. I think Larry has pointed out some concerns before with children in the home where the massage establishment might be taking place. Also, our city attorney, Ryan Dink, mentioned that the home occupation also has to comply with underlying restrictions of the residential zoning district, which could prove difficult. Also, he said there were blurred lines between a residence and a massage establishment in relation to property access for inspections because the municipal code allows a constant right of access to the business. However, there are constitutional guarantees for a special right of privacy in one's home that do not apply to a commercial premise, creating some conflicting rights. In researching nearby communities, we found in Olathe, massage is not allowed in residential districts, and there are extensive regulations in the municipal code. In Overland Park, massage businesses are allowed as home occupations if they meet all the home occupation requirements and standards in the municipal code. They do allow inspections by police and the Community Planning and Services Department, who are authorized for immediate access at reasonable times in a reasonable manner. And Lenexa handles them pretty much the same way by allowing them as home occupations if they meet standards in the municipal code and in the home occupation with immediate access with no notice at reasonable times in a reasonable manner. One of the background things behind this is there have been criminal sexual activities being conducted, unfortunately, in the guise of such businesses in this area in the past. So, not necessarily have to debate it right now, but if you have questions, maybe want some further clarification.
Is there any particular reason why this is being chosen to be added, to add F? Has there been any kind of attention brought to it or any kind of...
There's no particular incident that I'm aware of.
I think I'm more of the opinion that it's probably not necessary. I see Overland Park and Lenexa handle it with their municipal code. Is it possible that Gardner would need to strengthen their municipal code to be more specific, or?
No, I don't
there
think
needs to be a lump.
I don't think, the question was that our municipal code isn't strong enough. I think it's felt that it is strong enough and that it pretty much handles it, and the question is just whether we want it to happen as a home occupation.
Well, I think looking at the concerns expressed in the staff comments, I mean, possible conflicts with children under the age of 18 years not being allowed in massage establishments. I mean, it's essentially, I know it's a little bit different because it's in their house, but it's essentially the same policing effort as if it was in a building of a family-owned business, in my mind. Strangers being let into the residence by children, to me, is the responsibility of the parents to teach them not to do that. And then the blurred lines between property access, and there's a designated portion of the house that is the massage business, or any business, so you would have access to that portion of the house under these regulations, similar to a daycare, I would think. So I would tend to, no, I guess I don't have a question, I don't know if it's the right time to say all that, but is there any other thoughts or reasoning or?
I'm not familiar with the municipal code that you all referred to, so is it trying to make us this congruent with municipal code?
No.
So
The municipal code is a whole different process. They get a license from the clerk. I'm not sure what all is involved in it.
Okay, let's take a step back for a minute and let me refresh your memories of some of our conversations. We license massage parlors as a business location. We charge a fee for that. They are inspected. They are inspected several times over the life of the year while that license exists. Some of those inspections are spontaneous. It requires immediate access at any time they're open, day or night, by the police or by our inspection agency. That's much different than what you expect to have happen to you in your household. Even if you set aside a room in a house as a massage parlor business, I am registering your house, not your room, as a massage parlor business. I also license not only you as the massage therapist, but any employees you have to have access to that place as a business, not as a house, which means an employee has access to that location whenever it's open. Then you run into the problem of how do you keep under 18s out of that part of the house? It's their house. It's not a business to them. So you have underage children possibly in a location that are being kept necessarily out of part of their house because it's being used as a business during certain times of the day. It just seems to us that we're blurring the use of a home into a business and the expectations people have of using their home as a home and a residence, and we're taking away some of the normal expectations of the use of that as a residence. The other items that go along with that, of course, you can advertise downtown. You can put a sign on the front of your business. You can't do that in a residential area. So how are you going to market or identify your house as the place for them to come to? That's an issue. There's parking issues. When you have a business, you're regulated for parking. We don't necessarily regulate parking for a residential area, but when you start increasing the number of trips to a home, even if we limit them to 6 a day, no one's up there counting how many times people come and go from their particular location unless we have a complaint. It just seems to us that there are more negatives involved in allowing this as a home occupation than keeping it as a business location and separated out of the residential part of our community. So that's basically thought process. I don't know how the cities that are doing it, I haven't gone and looked and checked on those businesses to see what they look like, or how they're licensing them, or how they're marketing them, or protecting them, or what they're doing, so.
You know, and, I'm sorry. I see it a little bit differently, Larry, and I'll be frank, I think. I think the biggest concern with massage businesses is the nefarious news stories, and we've seen it in Gardner at a business location. It wasn't a home business. And the things that happen in those locations, none of what is in our municipal code prevents our law enforcement from enforcing those laws that are what makes those businesses illegal. If they feel that it warrants investigation, they'll be able to do so. They'll be able to secure the warrants. They'll be able to do all those different things. I also think some of the things that you mentioned in regards to access to the home, for inspections and whatnot, if that's within our code and you've licensed yourself as a massage therapist, that's one of the risks you've taken on in choosing to sue in that matter. And one of the reasons I think it's important for us to not overregulate is because being a massage therapist lends itself so much to being a sole proprietor, which limits sometimes what your cost can be as far as commercial development, and it can be completely well ran, completely, operate above the snuff on every law you put in the books. And when we keep coming back maybe to the 18 years and maybe that's actually an issue with our municipal code and we're looking at the wrong thing that needs to be corrected, and that's something for the governing body. So while others may feel differently than that, I disagree with some of the things that we brought up, and I think the thing we're scared about is we certainly don't want a massage business to go down the line of where there are illegal activities, but our law enforcement chief and the rest of the staff won't be prevented doing any of those measures by doing it even if they're licensed home proprietors. So I just think we're almost over-regulating, and we've already voted on the other items listed. I mean, we probably didn't devote enough time there. We may be over-regulating home businesses as a whole in an entrepreneurial society, but I just feel this one's not there. We've got municipal code developed on it, and we're limiting it for the people that may operate inefficiently to remove from those the people that could do it completely above the board and be what we want as small business owners in town. So I see it differently, and I just think it should be struck and left the way it is.
Okay. Do you know, we license massage therapists now. Do we have any current people that have them in their houses, or are they all at businesses?
They're all in business.
But
Do you have
other,
any data to show that home properties lose value when they are neighbors to a home that has a massage business? Any information on traffic patterns, parking issues, from these other city entities that
Well, we have
poses a concern?
we have a standard in our code that if traffic is no traffic shall be generated by any home occupation in a substantially greater volume than would normally be expected in a residential neighborhood. That's the protection that we have for home occupations in general. It'd be very difficult to get that kind of data. I'm not sure how we would do that.
I'm not sure either. Edgerton, do they allow?
I didn't check with Edgerton.
For some reason, I think they do allow massage business.
I agree with all the stuff that Heath mentioned. I think it's trending towards over-regulating in this case. As far as the other municipalities, I've been to some of these personally in Overland Park and Lenexa, these kind of in-home massage therapists. My 70-year-old mother has been to some of these, and she lives in Overland Park, and she's been to some of those. You wouldn't even know that they do what they do. It's like you're another visiting neighbor. They're well-to-do subdivisions. You drive in, you stay for an hour, you drive out. There's no traffic. I saw no kids in the homes I was in. I think it's a little bit of an overreach, worrying about a lot of what-ifs. So I agree with what he said. I think we should strike F.
okay, how about, Tori and Tim, just to kinda get the feel from the right side over here, how about you?
No, I agree with the current. I wouldn't add massage businesses to be prohibited. I think we're overstepping, I think, to some degree. I like I mean, it's their house, I feel like they should be able to have, for the most part, a business in their house. So I'd keep it the current way.
I'm struggling, I'll just be honest with you. I see both
Both
sides,
sides.
you know. I think the staff has a thorough recommendation here, and some justification that Larry had shared with us. I understand the comments on over-regulation and entrepreneurship, and there's value in all that. As somebody, as an educator, you know, I mean, I respect your comments about your 70-year-old mother going to these, but as an educator, I do worry about young children. Not that the propriety would have, do anything illegal, but sometimes you just don't know who's coming into those homes. That worries me. But we still have other things here in the proposal that worry just as much about, I guess. I don't know. Struggling. That doesn't happen very often.
Seems like we have some, maybe a majority of the consensus to strike item F.
Did you wanna talk at all about that additional recommended motion? Am I,
Yeah, that's,
Well, no, that's, I guess, what are you, hang on a minute, Brett, what are you talking about? What do you mean? Which piece are you referring to?
in the recommended motions, there is an additional recommended motion to initiate text amendments which showed up right before the TA 16-12 text in our handouts.
yeah, and the reason for that one is there are some other, uses in chapter 5 that don't have clarity that we would like to possibly be able to have a permit process for them upon initiation. Kind of the same thing we just went through with the whole home occupation and clarifying it needs a permit and it, you know, what we would review. We think there's a few other uses that should be treated similarly to that, but we just hadn't noticed those for discussion or initiated them. So we would ask, in order to be able to consider them, that you would initiate, being able to look at chapter 5 uses for that purpose. So there's 2 recommendations and 2 possible motions.
I think, real quick, since this is a public hearing item and we need to go through the motion of the public hearing, let's, real fast pause and, open time for, any member of the public who would like to come forward and speak on this, item. Individuals, representing themselves will be allotted 3 minutes. Those representing a group will be allotted 7. If you'd like to speak on this item, please come forward, state your name and address for the public record and be heard. Not seeing any member of the public that would like to speak this evening, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
We have a motion made by Limer with a second by Freeman that we close the public hearing. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the public hearing is now closed. Okay, so with that, I'm sorry, Commissioners, we kind of had to take a quick pause to go through the legal formality of the public hearing, so we have that behind us. As we formulate what the recommendation will be, I just want to quickly summarize consensus from the Commissioners. We have consensus on item A as wrote by staff, and item C as wrote by staff with the addition of and/or floor plan. So that's where we're at with item A and item C. Item B is deferred. We're still on item D in discussion. Seems like we have kind of a general consensus that item F would be struck, and that would leave T-16-12 as is. Now, I don't know if it's even worth a tabling on item D,
That's actually what
or...
my thought was, but if we table it, I'd like to get more information, but I'm not sure what that information would be.
Right.
I am very curious about, property values being affected, by being next door to a massage therapist. And I don't know, maybe there would be no effect, and I don't know how, if you could research that or not. I honestly, I'd be kinda curious to see what Edgerton's doing, even though it's a much smaller city than us, and probably, I would just be kinda curious what our neighbor to the west.
Okay, so it sounds like Tim's in for more discussion on it, on D. Tori? Or you just strike F?
I would strike F, but if we want, I mean, if the commission wanted to go with more discussion, I'd be all right with that too, but I'm okay with the current.
Okay. Brett?
Strike F, definitely. Based on discussion and my own personal observation, I just don't think it's necessary.
Okay, Brad?
Agree.
Okay, Keith?
Same.
Okay. So just based on what I have, a majority of concurrence here with the commissioners, would everyone agree then with, item D being left as is, striking F, therefore proceeding with the, recommendation on text amendments A and C?
I respect my colleagues. Is there a way for us to know when applications come through? And maybe this is more of a city council issue versus city planning, but I'd like to be able to have some history a year from now, 2 years from now, on how many applications we're getting for massage, use the parlor, but massage therapists, in-home therapy. Is there a way for us to know that information?
Yeah, the public information, of course, is on file. They are renewed annually in January. Applications are received in December. They're reviewed by the police department and they're inspected. And if they're approved, they're given to the city council for approval. And then the first meeting or the second meeting in January, depending on kind of how it falls. We have 2 applications that are renewals from 2 existing businesses at the present time, and they each have 1 licensed therapist in them, and they're both downtown businesses.
Off the subject a little bit, do we allow in-home pet grooming? I didn't see that on the prohibited list, but that it would be an in-home business.
I would think we would if they could meet the standards.
Good question. Okay. Seems like we have consensus on D. So with that, I think, unless the commissioners have other discussion or questions on how to proceed, I'd entertain a motion on item number 4.
I move that we recommend to the governing body to approve the text amendments as discussed in items A and item C.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Freeman with a second by Limer that the planning commission will support the initiation of the text amendments, item A and item...
No. That's different. That's the additional recommended motion. This is on that we recommend that they approve the following text amendment.
Well, right, but we have to initiate the text amendment change.
No.
No? I'm sorry, and I have it wrong. I guess. Okay, so we're approving the text amendment change to Land Development Code on item A and item C as discussed, which item C includes the addition of and/or floor plan.
Exactly.
Okay, all right, there we go. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong piece of paper.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we have that motion made by Freeman with a second by Limer.
Do we need to move not to approve PA 1612?
You need to take some sort of action on D.
Okay, so we can start with the
If
approval
you-
on A and C, and then talk about D, or does it all need to be in one? We've never.
It's
really
up to you. If
Sure.
you fail to make a recommendation, it moves forward to the governing body as a denial.
Right, so in essence, if we're approving 2 things and not making a motion on D.
I suggest you make a motion on D.
Okay.
You can vote on them individually.
Okay, let's do that. That just might make it more clear. All right. So, Heath, you wanna restate your motion? We'll just go one by one, knowing that item B is deferred.
I move that the planning commission recommend that the governing body approve the text amendments as described in item A.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Freeman with a second by Limer that the governing body approve the text amendments as noted in item A. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries with all in favor. Item B is deferred. I would entertain a motion on item C.
I recommend that the planning commission forward to the governing body for approval the text amendments as described in item C, as discussed with the addition of and/or floor plans.
Second.
So we have a motion made by Freeman with a second by Limer that the planning commission forward the text amendment to the governing body for approval, as written with the exception of, the addition of and/or floor plan. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries with all in favor. Okay, item D.
I recommend that the planning commission deny the text amendments as proposed in item D.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion made by Freeman with a second by Limer that the planning commission deny the text amendment as wrote in item D. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with all in favor. Okay. Well, we've not done one like that before. Well, that was a good learning experience. Okay. Great job, guys. Thank you. With that, do we have any other discussion items?
Did you wanna initiate those other text amendments?
I don't know what text amendments were. I didn't see in the staff, which ones are we trying to initiate? Or just continued review of the land development code?
It's, to look at the rest of the uses in chapter 5 to determine if we need to specify a permitting process for them.
So it's basically just saying we'll come back to that.
Okay, to
And-
come back to...
Yeah, we'll give you the specific amendment later.
Okay. Well, in that case, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, just a general question of process. Is it required for us to initiate things for you guys to do it, or can you not work on anything?
Comprehensive plan amendments and text amendments to the land development code require initiation by either the planning commission or the governing body. So we have to bring it to either one of you for you to say, yes, please look at this.
Makes sense?
All right, we have one more motion, if anyone would like to make it.
In that case, I move the planning commission support the initiation of text amendments to the Gardner Land Development Code to address issues as summarized in the December 20th, 2016 staff report.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Limer with a second by Austin that the planning commission support the initiation of text amendments to the Gardner Land Development Code to address issues as summarized in the December 20th, 2016 staff report. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with all in favor. Okay, I think we got it. Do we have any discussion items?
I just wanted to throw out there's some of you had a small box sitting in front of your spot. That was something that was given to all of our volunteers at the appreciation dinner. So those of you that were unable to attend, that is something for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't have anything else for tonight? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to adjourn made by Limer, the second by Brady. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Meeting's adjourned with all in favor.